Hello there. Good evening, everyone. This is Dari on WorldStreams Radio. Thank you to our listeners from all around the world for joining us tonight. To learn more about WorldStreams Radio, visit our website, worldstreams.org. Our guest tonight is musician, guitarist, and composer Howard Fishman. Howard has come to be recognized as one of today's most agile interpreters of the American songbook. His performances combine the exuberance and spontaneity of jazz with a storyteller's sense of drama and emotional depth. The New York Times has written that his work transcends time and idiom. Howard began his musical career on the streets of New Orleans and in the subways of New York before making his debut at the Algonquin Oak Room in 1999. He made his Lincoln Center debut in February 2007 when he was presented as part of the season's American Songbook series. He's also been a frequent guest on NPR, National Public Radio. Howard's extensive background as an actor, director, and scholar specializing in the work of Eugene O'Neill has kept him involved with the theater also. He produced We Are Destroyed, an original folk jazz oratorio with the support of Public Theater in New York City. Hello, Saeed. Hello, Howard. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Hi.
Well, hello, Dari, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and good evening to you, Howard.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Not many artists have really started the way you started, from the streets of New York and also the streets of New Orleans. Tell us, how much of that experience has shaped your musical career?
Well, I think the experience of living and playing music in New Orleans continues to shape my experience of playing music and has shaped my sensibilities, and then also just the idea of having to sing for my supper, as it were, in the early days. I would say that was a pretty formative experience for me. I didn't just luck into a magical gig and just suddenly have a music career, although I sort of did a little later on. That sort of did happen, but yeah, starting in the subways and on the streets in New Orleans really sort of gave me some of the the rough edges that I feel like are still a part of my music.
Do you remember that first day? Was it in New Orleans? Do you remember it, or was it exactly? And what was it like?
Yes, I do remember it. I went down to New Orleans, $300 in my pocket and a little suitcase and my guitar on a train. From up here in New York, or actually in Connecticut, where I grew up. And I didn't know anyone down there. I didn't know very much about the city. I knew a lot about New Orleans culture because I'd gotten really fascinated by it through books and films and old records and things. But I didn't know what was going to happen when I got there. And the only thing I knew is that I really just wanted to play New Orleans music, and I wanted to see how much of the old New Orleans music was still around from the people that sort of first started it in the early 20th century. And yeah, I do remember that first day. I took out my guitar and I sat down on a milk crate in the French Quarter, and I started playing a song. And these guys gathered around, these older guys gathered around, sort of unsmiling guys with their arms crossed across their chests, and they waited for me to finish. And I finished the song, and they said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Connecticut." And they said, "Well, you better go back there because you're not going to make it down here."
Wow, that's interesting. They said, "What? You're not I guess you're not from New Orleans, therefore you don't have what it takes." I guess, huh?
Yeah. Well, I had to really prove myself, and it didn't happen right away. I had to pay a lot of dues down there.
How much time did you spend there?
The better part of 3 years.
And then all of a sudden you decided, well, something different is going to happen. I have to move on. And you went, you traveled all over the country, correct?
I did go all over the country, and I wound up in New York because I thought that I wanted to return to what I thought was my life's purpose, which was to be in the theater. And so I came to New York to direct some plays and also write some plays, and without the expectation that I would continue playing music. I thought that I had sort of gotten that out of my system in New Orleans, and that I would continue to do it as a hobby, but not that as a vocation. And then I did do some theater when I got to New York, but very quickly the music thing just continued to happen and sort of eclipsed my theatrical ambitions.
From there, you went into the New York subway. Which one was first? Was the New York subway first in your career, or was it New Orleans?
New Orleans was first, and then New York.
Do you think New Orleans after the Katrina will ever be the same?
Well, no, it'll never be the same. But it's also a town that is never the same. That's a town that changes a lot.
Yeah.
And I've been there since Katrina, and it's going to be just fine. It's not going to be the same, but it's going to be fine, and it's going to be different, and it's still going to be great.